What does social media, your average supermarket, and a prison have in common? Even now, even though you might not know it, it's happening right now. You are being watched. You have the possibility of being watched. If you have a phone camera, if you have a webcam, if you have any social media, you're being watched. Cameras and eyes are everywhere. And as always, we just ignore them. Even if there's nothing inside them, the fact remains. As Michael Foucault said in his 1975 book, Discipline and Punish, The Birth of the Prison, he is seen, but he is not seen. He is the object of information, but never the object of communication. But Mr. Foucault is not talking about modern surveillance equipment or social media, but instead about Jeremy Bentham's panopticon, a design for a prison where the prisoners are always being watched, even if there's not a guard in the jail. Now, ever since I found out about this concept in George Orwell's 1949 book, 1948, bit confusing, I have always been fascinated by this concept. In 1984, the totalitarian regime surveils the populace with thought police and telescreens, an ever-watching presence and posters plastered on every city wall. Big Brother is watching, and as such, creating panopticon of thought. And from there, I went down a rabbit hole learning more and more about this concept. To understand the principles of the panopticon and how it has succeeded in the modern age via technology. But to fully understand the concept, we have to go back to its creation. The many failed attempts to successfully build one on its design. And how it has truly succeeded in this day and age. And we have to start back in the 18th century with the founder of utilitarianism, Jeremy Bentham. In 1786, Bentham arrived in modern-day Belarus, visiting his brother. He stayed for about 2 years, and while residing, he started laying out the plans for his idea in letters, taking some ideas from his brother about constantly monitoring workers in factories. And later in England, he fully fleshed the concept out, creating a complete penal code and also answering the age-old question of who will guard the guards, having the manager occasionally being subject to observation by officials and the public. And Bentham had his idea fully worked out in the late 17th century, but it wasn't until early 18th when he had his idea had its first construction, but also its first failures. In 1812, with growing issues with multiple England prisons, like the Newgate prison, the British government started to fund the building of the Millbank prison with taxpayer money. The prison was based on Bentham's design. And when it finally opened in 1821, it was quickly criticized for the constant outbreak of diseases. And Bentham lived to see it fully built, but did not support at all how the government did it. Later on in history, from 1926 to 31, Cuba built 4 panopticon-style prisons connected via tunnels. But by the time that Fidel Castro was imprisoned in that prison in '53, it had deteriorated the space being packed with 6,000 men, trash littering every floor, there was no running water, and barely enough food to survive. But how did it go from having multiple failures and in such a long period of time to becoming something ever-present? In this day and age, you can't even blink without the chance of someone watching and seeing. We've so openly let technology into our lives without worrying about the consequences. There's barely a moment when we don't have a camera on us, where the chance of being watched is nigh zero. Social media has algorithms that watch us, count every second we linger on a page or an ad. What we search, consume, it's all being stored until they sell it to someone. On the streets, in the supermarket, we see cameras that watch us to make sure we don't do crime. Some of them don't even have guards stationed at them, but just the presence of the camera lowers crime rate by about 15%. We have invited this concept unknowingly, and it's so ingrained in our lives and economy that we can't even escape it. The digital age also brought along with it the greatest application of Bentham's design. And more than likely, in a few hundred years, it'll still be ever present. In the words of Bentham, the father of utilitarianism, when describing his creation, it goes, morals performed, health preserved, industry diffused. We invited the eyes in and let them open. But now, we can never shut them.